And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 330. Yes, I figured out the number before I announced the show. I'm your host, Blain Pudvey, and I'm joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good morning.
What a beautiful morning it is.
It is.
Birds
It
are
really is.
chirping.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is sunny,
What is
but
here? I
not
don't know
in
about
Nova
there.
Scotia. No, here it's
it's
disgusting.
it's beautiful here.
Yeah. It's wet, it's cold, it's gray, it's just gross.
Like the Canadians'
So
playoff chances.
yeah, so zero. So this episode, we've got a couple of things to cover off. We got a little bit of news from around the league. We have uh, a review of the Canadians' first win in March, and there's been a signing.
There has.
Ooh. So why don't we just kick it off with an around the league view of the NHL?
Okay, so I'll start off with something that's not NHL related, but it is Canadians
Ooh,
related.
okay.
As we record, Canadians' second round pick in last year's draft, Lane Hudson, was named Hockey East Player of the Year or Rookie of the Year.
Of
Rookie
the
of the Year,
Daily
sorry.
Show, and
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year. So congratulations to him. He, for an undersized defenseman, the guy was just phenomenal all year. It was kind of, Rookie of the Week, Rookie of the Week, Rookie of the Month, etc., all throughout the year. So good on him. Still no word yet if he's won Player of the Year, which he was also a finalist for. So we'll get back to you on that one, of course. Now to go a little bit more into around the league, I'm gonna spitball this off really quick. During the Canadians game with the Colorado Avalanche, Arturi Lehkonen broke a finger. He's going to miss multiple weeks. So that's obviously going to be a loss for the Colorado Avalanche. With the topic of injuries, Svechnikov for the Carolina Hurricanes. He is out with a lower body injury, having surgery. He's missing the rest of the year and the rest of the playoffs. So for a team that didn't really do anything other than pick up Gostisbehere at the trade deadline, didn't use that cap money that they had for Pacioretty going down to make a significant move. This is a significant loss for them and a team that a lot of people are saying that could come out of the East and could challenge Boston. Big loss for them, of course. A little bit more of around the league, some dates. The NHL's draft lottery, which has big implications on the Montreal Canadiens. Remember, we want Florida to continue to lose. So that will be May 8th at 7 p.m. Obviously, it's going to be a huge event for Connor Bedard, and you know what? It's not just Connor Bedard. He'd obviously be the big prize. There's some great talent up in the top 10 of this draft. So whoever they ended up getting, I'll hopefully be happy with. The Stanley Cup Final tentatively scheduled to begin on June 3rd, subject to a possible move up in the event of an early series wrap up quickly. Marty Walsh, who's going to be the next NHLPA director, he's going to be starting his job on Monday, and they say with that Gary Bettman is willing to discuss a larger cap bump than 1 million for next season with the NHLPA, but they're going to have to talk to the director and see if they can bump that up. And the last thing I have on the around the league is the GM meetings are being sorted out, that Gary Bettman is not changing the NHL divisional playoff format. He's happy with the way that
Okay.
it is right now. A lot of people want to go back to 1-8. The ones that are just crying every time they have to play somebody that might give them a little bit of a trouble in the playoffs. They want to go to 1-16. that doesn't work with North America, right? It can work within, a province maybe, or a couple provinces, but it doesn't work across North America. So I don't think 1-16 is ever going to happen. And
I think the only team that's really been bitching and moaning about that is on the shores of a Great Lake in
yeah,
Ontario.
it's down the highway from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all I've got to say. Oh, and
Uh,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna I'll speculate. I will speculate. But the Ottawa Senators should be sold soon. And we all know that Ryan Reynolds was supposed to be incorporated in this deal somehow. This guy just sold Mint Mobile to T-Mobile for like $1.3 billion. He sold Aviation Gin a couple years ago for like 600 million bucks. So that, and then the movies that obviously he's been making, so he's got the money. He's
Well, I
he's
mean,
he's he's gonna find that sugar mama or sugar daddy that he needs, and he's gonna probably join one of these groups.
will his wife allow him to spend that kind of money? That's the thing.
I think so.
Sure, he's making money,
I
but
think so. I'm not
eh,
one for gossip and Hollywood couples and stuff, but like if I was to be like that couple there, I'd be okay with that.
it
They
seems
seem like
fine.
good people. They seem like good people.
Yeah. And so if he buys the team or he's part of the team, the group that buys the team, are they renaming it to the Ottawa Deadpools?
I'd be okay with
Kind of like their playoff hopes?
that. Bazinga.
Got to take the shot. When it's
That was
there,
good.
you take it.
That was good.
Um, Also on back onto Lane Hudson
Yep.
a little bit. So the Hobie Baker Award, the top 10 finalists are going to be announced later today. So
Right.
today's the 15th of March. So I believe sometime around 3 p.m. Eastern time, the top 10 finalists will be announced. The likelihood that Hudson is in there is pretty high,
Yep.
but also Sean Farrell is
Yep.
going to probably be in there as well. Uh, he is the third overall scorer in the NCAA. Hudson is the ninth overall scorer in the NCAA and the top scorer among defensemen with the best point per game average of any defenseman in the last 30 years in the NCAA. And that's some big names like Adam Fox and Cale Makar. He's even the first defense. He's the first freshman to lead Hockey East in scoring since Jack Eichel, a
Yep.
forward who went second overall. So there's a lot pointing to Canadians prospects in the NCAA really starting to pick up some steam here when it comes to individual awards. Now, Farrell, he's got a series, I believe, that starts on Friday. At the end of that series, if the team is out, I expect him to sign.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I think he's going to be he's the next one
Yeah,
for sure. He's the next one in the scope for sure.
we'll talk about the other one here later. But why don't we just jump into, you know what? Screw it. Let's just jump right into the signing. Jaden
Sure.
Struble signed. He signed this morning. Shocking, I know. I mean, it's not been in the news at all for the last 2 3 days.
This one wasn't really surprising.
No,
We talked about it on a few different shows over the year, and with the emergence of a few of these defensemen coming up and kind of turning some heads, and some guys from Laval taking the next step, more or less out of necessity because of all the injuries this year. Knock on wood. Yeah, Jaden Struble, second round pick in 2019, very athletic, smooth skating, aggressive, kind of hard hitting defenseman when he needs to be, a little bit over aggressive sometimes when he has to be. Um, he was a guy that was very high on the list of prospects for Marc Bergevin. Um, if you watch that draft, their little draft breakdown, and they called him like a Greek god and all this kind of stuff. And
oh yeah, he
they
was
talked about
killing
the,
it in the
yeah.
the
Oh, the
player
combine.
evaluations
Yeah, the
there. Oh my
combine, he
god, yeah.
was, yeah. So if he can come in and help the Laval Rocket with a little bit of a playoff push, we'll maybe be able to evaluate his game a little bit, and then we'll see him at training camp. next season. And I like that we're seeing, obviously we haven't seen him play yet, but I'm liking that we're seeing more drafted talent make these lineups. So
Yeah.
next year he's likely, I'm not gonna say for sure because hell, who knows what the team's gonna look like next season. But this is a guy that's likely gonna be in Laval next year. With more than likely Logan Mayer. So you're gonna have two drafted players in the last few years that are going to be on that team that haven't made their pro debut yet. And we talked about this on the last show briefly, about the AHL not saying anything regarding Mayer. The NHL
Yeah.
still has to clear him, but the AHL hasn't said anything yet. He is signed to a contract, so we know that he's going to play somewhere next year.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of formality at this point that the NHL clears him to play. They allowed the signing to happen,
Yeah,
so, and they haven't pulled the contract like they did with other players.
right,
So as long as he keeps his head down, doesn't do anything stupid between now and then,
right,
he should be fine.
right.
And Laval next year is looking like they're going to have a pretty strong defense. But for this season right now, they're currently in fourth in the North Division. They're battling now for positioning within that division. There's a possibility they move up a little bit. With all the injuries and all the call ups, that defense has been pretty banged up and
It has.
decimated. So Struble arriving, that gives the team an extra body who's healthy. He's played healthy the last 2 years, so that's good news. He's physical, he's mobile, he's good in transition. Um, so those are all aspects of the game that the Canadians really like to build their defense on now, and he fills all those roles. More importantly, by signing the AHL deal and moving the ELC to next year, this gives him much more opportunity to play meaningful minutes on a professional team. Because if he were to go straight to the NHL, he might play 8 to 12 minutes, in a third pair, no penalty kill, no power play. But in Laval, we're looking at a guy who's got the opportunity now to play 18 to 25 minutes in a game, depending on what's going on the power play, on the penalty kill, 5-on-5, last minute, protect a lead, get a goal, all these different situations. The door is open now for this 6 foot, 205 pound monster of a player who loves to hit to really get his feet under him professionally.
And I'm 100% fine with the signing. I said,
Oh yeah, this is great.
we talked about this a few times, I said, and we were on the fence. Is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? We kind of threw a couple names back and forth, and he was a maybe on all of our lists. But you know what? Let's give the guy a chance. It's not going to hurt anything. We've seen how an undrafted player in Arbor Jackeye has turned out, and now we're seeing a guy that took a few extra years, played out his NCAA career, which is nothing wrong with, of course. Now that's come to an end. He's going pro. He's getting this opportunity at the AHL. Hopefully makes the most of it. Stays healthy. Again, knock on wood, which is something that, that's few and far between when it comes to Canadians. And then hope for the best that he comes into training camp healthy and he's turn some heads.
And the opportunity's there. The openings are there. There's going to be some trades here over the summer, and there's going to be chances for him to make himself valued. He also plays both sides. He plays both left and right defense.
Right.
So that's also a big help. Now the Canadians prospects from the NCAA, there's still Jakub Dobeš,
Yep.
friend of the show, who is one of the 35 nominees for the Hobey Baker, who might, I don't know if he will, but might get into the top 10. That would be 3 Canadians in there.
Just to have three nominees.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's pretty big.
That's a lot. Yeah. So for him, he had a really great season in Ohio. pulling in a 918 save percentage, got 20 wins, which is top 10 in the history of his school. So Ohio State University, I think he's eighth right now, eighth best winning season amongst all goalies in their history. And that's on a team that has some issues defensively. Now they're out, they're done. So there's a possibility he signs. Now, 21 years old, I don't know if I would be rushing him just yet. Maybe allow him to play another season in the NCAA, because we saw what's happened with Caden Primo. He had 2 amazing years at Northeastern, made the leap, and now he's stagnant. He's not getting enough playing time, or his development's kind of petered out a little bit. So if we give the guy a little bit more runway to get his legs under him and get the speed going, his development might not stagnate at the same point. So
Right.
I'd avoid signing him.
If I'm a goaltending prospect for the Canadians right now, I'm seeing it as an opportunity, but at the same time, even though as fans we want to see this rush and we want to see the next goalie come up, the who's going to be the guy that's going to take over for Carey Price. So we that's what we're wondering. It's not going to be the 2 goalies that are in net right now. It's not going to be Allen or Montembeault. This is a short-term solution. We're waiting to see who's going to take the reins and who's going to be the next guy. And again, if you're a prospect, this is about honing your game, making yourself better, getting noticed for the right reasons, and possibly being that individual. But I would say, I think that he'll play another year in the NCAA. It's kind of a wide open field right now. There's you can't really say there's a goaltending prospect in the, like, Primo's still the number 1, even though he's been stagnant, but there's no one else that's really kind of taken it, by the horns and said, I'm the next guy. Because you still have Dobes, you still have Ditchow, you still have Verbektik, you still have et cetera, right? You've got other guys in the system that we haven't even talked about.
Now, with Verbektik, he's on that AHL deal. I don't know if he's going to earn himself an NHL contract, because the NHL rights are expiring at the end of this year for him. I have a hard time believing he's going to get an NHL deal with the Canadians, maybe somewhere else. With Dykau, his NHL rights expire this summer as well. And he's someone that would be interesting to me. He hasn't had a ton of playing time with Frölunda. I think it's about 18 to 20 games if you count Champions League.
Right.
His numbers, I mean, he's got a winning record. His save percentage in the SHL isn't that great. I think it's sub 900, but Frölunda's a weak team. Right. But for some reason, during the Champions League, they're able to pick up some guys, and they've done extremely well. And so has Dykau, who's gotten, I think it's 4 wins in 5 games or something like that at the Champions level. So I would be interested to see if he gets a deal this summer. I think it's a very high possibility. Another guy whose rights are up this summer is Jack Gorniak of the University of Wisconsin. I do not see him earning a deal. I don't think he's done enough to really catch the attention from the Canadians, especially with only 50 contracts and so many prospects coming. He's a decent player. It's just he hasn't really climbed up the depth chart.
No, he'll be one of those one of those prospects that was on the shelf and just never made it. And we're gonna see that, and we're gonna see that over the last couple of years. The Canadians have went crazy in terms of stocking the shelves and hoping for the best, and hopefully a few of them stick. It's worked out so far. They've managed to pull in some good prospects. I actually have the latest of the hockey news here beside me, and I am on the Canadians page right now. They are
just one page.
They are given a B+ for their prospects. and they're ranked 11th in the league, with their top 10 being Philip Mesher, Lane Hudson, Owen Beck, Justin Barron, Sean Farrell, Joshua Roy, Logan Maya, Riley Kidney, Matthias Norlander, and Jan Mishak. And out of the top 100, Mesher is 54, Hudson is 65, Beck is 84, and Barron is 92. So they've managed to get these prospects, but again, you're seeing a few. Another one's likely going to be a guy like Luke Tuck, who was pretty sought after, and they were pretty proud of the signing when they got him in. It just he had some flash in his game, but it doesn't seem like that playing style. We thought that he was going to be like his brother. We thought that him and Alex were going to be kind of like a pair, and it hasn't worked out. And I don't know if he's going to be a guy that's going to sign, or if they're going to look at him.
Um, with players like him, it takes a little bit longer to develop. He hasn't had a bad season so far. His numbers may not seem over the moon, but we got to keep in mind too that even Brady Tkachuk's numbers look like crap.
That's true.
Only
I'm
had
I'm
eight
I'm I'm not
goals.
ready to give up on the guy,
Yeah,
but
no, no,
I can see more of, maybe dangle an AHL contract in front of him first.
sure. He's still got another year of eligibility in the NCAA. He's going to go back. He'll play another year. He'll have a bigger role to play in Boston, and we'll see what's what then. But I fully expect him to be signed by the end of that. And he still has the potential to become a third line power forward type,
Yeah,
like a Greenway.
right, right,
He's got size. He's got speed. He can hit. He can put up some numbers. But all in all, third line power forward type. I think that's a good top end potential for a guy picked late in the second round.
right. Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Brings a little bit more size, a little bit more grit. It's stuff the Canadians will need, especially when they have guys like Farrell and Caulfield and Meshar's even considered undersized. So they got some undersized wingers who can put up points, but they need someone there to play the more difficult style of going in the corners, digging pucks out, play that cycle game, create some space for them, and kind of defend them a little bit. So
Right.
those are essential roles as well.
Well, what I'm really hoping for is we talk about prospects, we talk about stocking the shelves, and then we bring up some of these guys, Caulfield, we bring up Lane Hudson, we talk about Sean Farrell, we talk about Joshua Roy, Owen Beck, etc. Well, there's only so many contracts, there's only so many spots.
Yeah,
So for me, it's just a matter of time where we see some of these guys, you know, take you off the shelf, put you as a part of a bigger deal. And they're gonna have to sit down this summer and find out what's going on, because with some of the names that are floating out there in terms of goaltending that we talked about on the last show, there's that constant rumor when it comes to Dubois. You know that there's going to be a young player or two going a part of that package if they don't wait for unrestricted free agency, so another season. Um, some of these guys are going to have to get moved, right?
I agree.
Um, and I'll throw one out there. I like the kid. I like him a lot, and I know you've seen him play. I've seen him play once, I believe. Is Riley Kidney.
Yeah,
Right, Riley Kidney's not as he's not talked about as much. However, he should be. Is the guy is putting up mad numbers in the queue this year. Played for a really, really, really bad Acadie Bathurst team. Still put up 45 points in 31 games. All of a sudden, he goes to Gatineau, who is on a fucking tear right now, and they're actually ranked the top team in the CHL this last week. I think they've won something like 18 games in a row or something like that. Like they're on a tear.
yes. Like
Um,
wins, not 18 games without a loss,
yeah, like
18 wins.
they are tearing it up. And since Kidney has joined that team, in 23 games, he's put up 54 points.
I hear that's pretty good. I mean, you know, 2 points a game.
Yeah,
It's okay, I guess.
right. And he's going to be a guy to look at. He's on a contract now, likely another one of those guys going to the AHL next season. So you're going to have him. You're going to have,
Possibly, yeah.
right. You'll have Joshua Roy. You'll have Maya. You'll have Struble. So it's starting to come together. You're starting to see more, say, homegrown talent on these rosters, and at the same time you're seeing some of these guys develop into very respectable trade chips going forward. It's not
Yes.
like, hey, we'll give you, player A, which is, hey, you put up 6 goals in the queue last year playing top minutes, right? He's not one of those kind of guys, right? So
Well, that's the thing. The player development is more than just making NHL players for the Canadians who better.
right,
It's turning that late second round pick into something that'll really turn the tide in a trade deal to get something of high value for your team. So you
right.
you can package together a couple of these prospects and a second round pick, and you get yourself player X that the team desperately needs. You know, on the NHL roster who fills the roles that they're looking for. These are all, it's all part of the rebuild, and we're starting
Right.
to, like you said, we're starting to see all that come now. And I mean, it's going to be a long it's going to be a long year and a half, but I do believe that after about 2 years we're going to start seeing a team that's playoff bound.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, we saw it earlier this year with before all the injuries started, and it was key players going down with each injury. We saw a little bit of some hope this season, and we even saw it up to this last um long losing streak.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that losing streak is now over. It is
Finally,
done.
finally.
For the first time in the month of March, the Canadians have won a hockey game. Now, I know we've talked about it ad nauseum for the last couple of weeks. In all those games, minus the Avalanche game that we talked about last episode, the Canadians have been highly competitive. They've been close games. There's a few where they could have won, but they just didn't. Now, last night's game against the Penguins, we saw a team win a game when they shouldn't have.
Yeah,
That's a game that the Canadians should have lost.
yeah.
There were several games they should have won. And now the hockey gods have returned the favor and said, well, here's a freebie.
Yeah, and the Calgary Flames are like, "Hey, what about us?" if
The
if
who?
if you guys don't know the reference, look up the Calgary Flames game from the Arizona Coyotes the other night.
Oof.
I think
Thank you, Calgary.
they've lost like 20 games this year where they've outshot the team by 10 plus shots or something.
They've got no
Something
finish.
crazy, right? Yeah, they got no finish, right? And they lost again last night. But anyways, back to Canadians. This is a game where I was like, it was 5 minutes in, it was 2-0 for Pittsburgh, and
I thought it was, yeah.
I thought, here we go again. Like 21 seconds in, Gensel knocks in a puck where everyone is just, it looked worse than Timbits hockey out there. Um, Everyone was just looking at the puck, and then you had the one kid where his dad was like, "You go there." They're all going to watch the puck, and that's exactly what happened. And he banged one in, and again, then they take a penalty. Malkin scores a power play goal, 2-0, 4:49 in, and it's looking like Colorado all over again. All of a sudden, 30 seconds later, off a nice pass from Pitlick, Mike Hoffman gets his 11th of the year. Canadians are on the board. And then from there, I can't say it was all Canadians. It was on the scoreboard, but they made the most of their shots. They scored 4 goals on 7 shots with Ylonen just or Elonin, as what some people call it. I'm still going with Ylonin because I like it more. Um, Absolute bomb of a shot. And we know that he has that. Wish he'd use it more often. Um, it would
He was
secure
given a
his.
lot of space to make that
He
shot too.
was.
The
He
way they
was.
set it up, they created a giant pocket for him to just to walk in and rip it.
Right. And I wish he uses it at the AHL a lot more.
Yeah.
I want to see that confidence moving forward. He's going to be another guy, another one of those bubble players. Is he going
Yeah.
to be a Laval guy? Is going to be a Montreal guy next season, etc. I'd like to see him using it a little bit more often. And then we had Garyanov, who has looked quite good since joining the Canadians. Got a sixth of the season, fourth with the Canadians.
Third game in a
And,
row.
yeah, third game in a row. And then we see, big goal scorer from the blue line, Joel Edmondson, get his second second of the year
Yeah.
with a little bit of I don't want it, you want it, I don't want it, you want it from Kovacevic, and all of a sudden you get a 4-2 lead.
I think that goal there specifically was the backbreaker for the Penguins. Like they looked like they were pushing, they were creating some pushback there. It was right at the end of the period, and it was a seeing eye shot. It got through the crowd. Jarry didn't see any of it, and it went right in. And
Right.
after that, it looked like going into the second period when it started. Normally, Pittsburgh comes out flying. They looked flat. It's as if they had their morale crushed, and it took them time to get their feet under them. And in that time, the Canadians were able to find a way to counteract what
Right.
Pittsburgh was doing.
Right.
However, throughout the entire game, the Penguins controlled puck possession,
They
the
did.
high danger chances, the scoring chances. It was evident that 2/3 to 3/4 of all shots, all scoring chances, all possession were Pittsburgh. It was all
Yep.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
This was a game where uh, good teams can win with bad goalies, but only if the bad goalies don't stink the joint up. And in this case, Jarry, who's a decent goaltender, just had a horrible game.
He did. Some of the shots though, they were they, they
Good
were they
shots.
were they were good shots. They were through screens, etc. So, not gonna fault him too much on the goals that he let in. However, it's the optics of it. It's 4 goals on 7
Yeah.
shots. So I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised when we saw DeSmith come in relief, and it kind of
Mhm.
in a way it kind of gave them a little bit of a boost because yes, they were flat to start the second period, but they were still the better team
Oh,
for the
yeah.
rest of the game, and they showed that in the second period with the 2 goals that they scored, with one late in the second period to tie it up at 4 going into the third. The goal that I want to talk about though is that incredible pass from Justin Barron up to
Oh,
Richard at
yeah.
the blue line, and Richard was able to take possession of this and kind of a little bit of a spin right at the blue line, walk in, and what a shot. Like, we know this
Yeah.
guy has some skill. We've seen it at the Laval level. Is he I believe he still leads the team in scoring.
I think so.
Gets second of the year, and it's a guy he's got speed for days, and ends up scoring the eventual game winner. And then we'll add on the Josh Anderson empty netter for his 21st of the year. Again, a guy that's yes, it's an empty netter, but a well-deserved goal for a guy that's been playing hard for the last few games. One of the only that's been playing hard the last few games.
If someone
Um,
would have told you at the start of the year that Josh Anderson would have 21 goals so far this season,
yeah,
you'd have been pretty freaking happy.
yeah, yeah. When you look at that laundry list, infirmary list, whatever you want to call it, of injuries, and you
Yeah.
still have a guy that's able to put up these kind of numbers without the supporting cast.
What are you talking about? This is an AHL All-Star game.
Yeah. But look how he's bounced around though. Like he's
Yeah.
I played with Dvorak a little bit, played with Monahan a little bit, played with Suzuki a little bit, played with Drouin a little bit. Like, there hasn't been consistency yet. The last few games, he's been one of those guys that's been the leader, and he's got an A on his chest for a reason.
True. That is true. And on the Richard goal, that entire setup started with a solid defensive play in front of the net. Barron with a heads up, able to did a couple shoulder checks, kept his head up, moved the puck up until he saw the opening. So Richard found that soft spot on the far side. Nobody was really paying attention to him. Barron beeline shot, tape to tape laser pass, all because of Richard's speed, but also it had a lot to do with Barron's situational awareness, something
Yes.
that he's gotten a lot of crap for over the year because they haven't seen it consistently. But what fans are going to really like watching him play once he brings his entire toolkit together. It's going to take a little bit more time, but that flash, that type of game that you saw from him yesterday, that's going to become his standard regular game. That's why he's going to become a really good second pairing defender, is because of not just the foot speed, not just the mobility, but his ability to transition quickly.
Just got a notification. Lane Hudson did not win Hockey East Player of the Year. It was Devin Levi.
Yes. Yeah.
And for a team that was knocked out in the first round, for him to still win that, I know it's a regular season award, but still pretty damn decent. And for a goaltender to win that award is really showing something. So
It'll be great once he signs with Montreal.
yeah. Hey, they had the opportunity. He was on my draft list the year that he was
He
he was
did.
picked, for a guy
He
to go
was a seventh rounder.
seventh rounder to the Florida Panthers. He was on my
Um,
draft list though.
Now back to the game. There's another player that I think deserves a little bit of love, and that is everybody's big punching bag, Drouin. He had a really good game.
He is sneaky putting up points this year. He really is. It's frustrating at the same time because um you you want to see this guy pot a goal or two or three or
Yeah.
four. Um, he's got a goal and 24 assists. He's quietly putting up numbers. Um, and it's like, oh, Jerome put up 2 assists, or Jerome put up 3 assists, or he picked up an assist on that play. He's just kind of sneaky putting up points this year. He's making people talk a little bit more, as opposed to before it was like, get this fucking guy off the team, right? Now people are starting to say, well, what if Hughes says this? What if he offers him this kind of contract? And it's getting people to talk. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Drouin's going to try to move on to another team, maybe a team that's a little bit more out of the spotlight a little bit. But the conversation's going to be there. People are going to talk and say, this is a guy that's quietly put up now 25 points. Yes, it's a goal and 24 assists, but is this a guy that we could bring in that can come in at a $2 million contract or something like that and be a trade chip come playoff time if we're not doing well?
I agree. And I think that Drouin will end up leaving the Canadians. I don't think it's a good idea to sign him and keep him. But in this game, he was one of three guys to have um, positive puck possession stats.
Yeah.
The Corsi 4 was positive. The Fenwick was positive. More importantly, the scoring chances for that were created when he was on the ice, he led the team in that, and they were high danger as well. So him, Gurianov, Anderson were the only three positive possession players in that entire game for the Canadians. Which, yeah, they were up against the Jeff Carter line, but still,
Right.
they're the only line to really pull it off. And Drouin looked really good doing it.
Right. For me, it was the fact that they had him out there in the last moments of the game.
Yes.
This is a guy that when I say defense, I don't say Jonathan Drouin's name afterwards. But he was out there. He was out there with Anderson, who is a decent penalty killer, and he knocked down that puck and ended up scoring that goal. But consistently, they were probably the Canadians' best line with
I
uh,
think so.
with uh, with Gurionov, Anderson, and Drouin. Um, combined, they had 11 shots, scored 2 goals. So pretty decent night overall. I would like to see the Suzuki line change up. I thought that they struggled. It was Suzuki, Harvey Pinard, and Ylonen. I'd like to see a little
Mhm.
bit of movement there. I know you can only do so much with the injuries that they have. When I start throwing out names like Alex Belzil, Rem Pitlick, Chris Tierney, Anthony Richard, Michael Bezzetta, etc., these are not, you know, top line NHL players. So you got to do with what you've got. But I found that they were hemmed in their zone a lot, like a lot.
They were. They were.
And Pittsburgh's a team that could win faceoffs. Canadians couldn't. So when Jonathan Drouin is your top faceoff guy at 47%, the next highest was 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's one of those games that they should have lost 9 to
They
2,
should have.
but they
They
ended up
should have.
winning.
And
Montembeault had a really
yeah,
good game.
exactly. Shout out to Montembeault. He for a guy that came in relief of Allen in the last game, to put up a 39 save percentage or a 39 save performance against Pittsburgh, a team that's in their own right trying to secure their playoff spot. It's not like you were playing a team that has kind of given up on themselves. So good on them, and well, let's hope that I'm going to piss people off by saying this, but let's hope the Canadians can maybe string a few wins together. Um, Team Tank is like, they got a voodoo doll of me now, just stabbing the shit out of that thing. I know, but their next game's on Thursday against the Panthers. The only thing you want to see in this game is you don't want to see a 3-point game.
Yeah. Uh, Honestly, it really doesn't matter who wins as long as it's not in overtime. I agree.
Exactly. Yeah,
I agree. Other than that one game, watching Florida lose every game would be fun
I'd be okay with
for
that.
Habs fans. And with the strength of schedule that the Canadians are facing until the end of the season, I don't think it's a big stretch to think that they're going to finish 5th or 6th overall
Yeah.
in the draft. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest, that's about where they're going to be. Will they win the lottery? I doubt it, but it doesn't matter. At that point of the draft, 5 and 6, the Canadians are looking at some very, very good players. They're high skill, good talent, good size, fill whatever need they want depending on who they pick. Um, it's not going to hurt. The Canadians are going to have some really good prospects coming out of this draft at the end of this summer. So they'll have a couple more prospects to work with that are going to be high end, and we'll see what happens. And that pretty much does it for the show. But before I shut her down, I want to make notation that tomorrow you and I will be speaking to a Canadians prospect, Cedric Guindon of the Owen Sound Attack.
Looking forward to it.
It should be fun.
Should be.
So it's finally going to happen. Now, almost happened yesterday, but there's a little issue with the storm going on here in Halifax, so I didn't have power,
It's all good.
so it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Um, so that's my final thought. Be sure to tune in. We're going to have that show posted up probably Friday or Saturday, depending on how much editing I have to do, depending on how much swears you use, because it has to be family friendly for that one.
I don't swear. What are you talking about?
Fuck you. Do you have any final thoughts?
I just ran Tankathon really quick, and
Okay.
Canadians got number 2. I'd be happy with Fantilli.
I mean, that'd be okay if
Yeah,
you're
good.
into that top line all-star type center.
I'd be okay with that. Hey,
Eh.
should have won. Hey, he should have probably won Player of the Year in Big Ten, but he's not a Leafs prospect. So, and if
Mm-hmm.
you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the scoring. See what Fantilli did as opposed to Matthew Knies.
Yeah.
He had
Let's
20
not
more.
give
He had
the
20 more points than him. But
he leads the NCAA in scoring.
yeah, as a rookie. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that does it. That does it for me. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening. Again, Treg sends his love to everybody. He just couldn't make it to the show either. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending the emails. Keep those coming. Keep checking in on us on social media. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.